All right, so welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to kind of look into something that really affects all of us, right? The importance of physical education, especially when it comes to kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got a whole mix of sources here for this deep dive. We've got academic studies, research reports, even some global guidelines on physical education. I think our main goal today is to, first of all, figure out why quality physical education is so important,
Yeah.
but also what benefits it has and what's stopping it from being done really well. So are you ready to get moving?
Let's jump in. And I think the best place to start is with a dose of reality.
Mm.
We are, whether we like it or not, in the midst of a global obesity crisis.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how bad is it, really?
Well, the World Health Organization's research is pretty alarming.
Okay.
Did you know that over 1 billion people worldwide are now classified as obese?
Wow.
That's more than double the rate in 1990.
Really?
And it's not just adults either. Childhood obesity has quadrupled in the same time frame.
Goodness me.
In 2022 alone, there were 37 million overweight children under the age of 5.
See, I think we hear about obesity in the news a lot, right?
For sure.
But those numbers are really striking.
They are, and it's not just a personal health issue either.
Yeah.
It has massive economic consequences too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The UK's National Health Service, for instance,
Okay.
they spend over £5.1 billion annually just on obesity-related issues.
Wow, that's a huge amount of money. It makes you realize that this isn't just about what people choose to do. It's about how well societies are doing as a whole.
Absolutely. And if you compare healthcare spending in the U.S. and the U.K., the U.S. spends more than double per person, but actually has poorer health outcomes.
Wow.
It shows how neglecting physical well-being can have a ripple effect across, well, a whole nation.
Yeah. So we're talking about a really serious problem here, a global problem, in fact,
It is.
with, huge implications. But before we get too discouraged, what can we actually do about it? Is it all doom and gloom, or is there hope?
There is hope, and this is where physical education comes in.
Okay.
Research shows that when kids develop healthy activity habits early in life, they're much more likely to maintain those habits as adults.
Right.
You're setting them up for a lifetime of better health, really.
Okay. So that makes sense. But you keep mentioning quality physical education.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
Right.
Is it just kids running around in gym class?
It's much more than that.
Okay.
Quality physical education, or QPE,
Okay.
goes beyond, like you said, just basic physical activity. It's about giving children the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes to lead active and healthy lives.
Okay.
Think of it as a building block for lifelong well-being.
So there's an actual strategy to it. It's not just like random games and activities.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about fostering physical literacy, which includes motor skills, movement confidence, and understanding the benefits of activity. And it's not just about sports either.
Okay.
It could be dance, outdoor adventure activities, or even just learning how to move your body effectively.
That's really interesting. It's kind of a different way of looking at it. So if we are building this foundation, like you said, for lifelong health, what are some of the benefits? What are we talking about here?
Well, the benefits are far-reaching,
Okay.
impacting both physical and mental health.
Okay.
Regular physical activity can improve cardiovascular health, it can boost mental well-being, enhance bone development,
Right.
reduce the risk of chronic diseases like cancer, and even mitigate the effects of aging.
Wow, that's quite a list. It's
Yeah.
like physical activity is a magic bullet for health.
It's certainly one of the most powerful tools we have.
Yeah.
And that's why organizations like UNESCO are emphasizing the importance of quality physical education.
Right.
Back in 2015, they created a national strategy for QPE, calling it the entry point for lifelong participation in physical activity.
So they're essentially saying that quality physical education is the key to unlocking all these incredible benefits.
Precisely. But as with most things, there are challenges to actually implementing QPE effectively.
Right.
And these challenges often stem from a misunderstanding of what quality physical education truly entails.
Yeah, that makes sense. If people just see it as running laps and playing dodgeball,
Yeah,
they might not grasp the kind of the deeper value of QPE.
exactly. And unfortunately, the limited view was pretty common for a while.
Right.
For example, in the 1990s, Australia conducted a major Senate inquiry into physical education in schools.
Okay.
Despite widespread support for the subject, they uncovered a concerning trend. Opportunities for quality PE were actually declining.
Really? Why was that happening?
Well, they found that issues like resource allocation and timetabling were squeezing out physical education,
Okay.
leading to a drop in children's skill levels and overall fitness.
Right.
Schools were prioritizing academic subjects over PE, even though research clearly showed the benefits of quality physical activity.
It's interesting you bring up the Australian inquiry because it reminds me of stories I've heard from teachers in the UK who, even if they specialized in physical education, felt unprepared to teach it effectively,
Hmm,
especially in primary schools.
that's a crucial point. And it leads us to one of the biggest challenges facing QPE, the need for highly trained and specialized teachers.
It sounds like having those dedicated teachers, the well-trained ones, especially in those early years,
Yeah,
is really, really essential for good QPE.
absolutely. Research consistently shows that specialist HPE teachers, especially at that primary school level,
Okay.
make a huge difference.
Yeah.
In one study, a whopping 82% of school principals said they preferred specialist HPE teachers.
Makes sense to me. I mean, if you've got someone who's really passionate about it,
Yeah?
about physical education, and they really understand how children develop, that's got to be a better experience for the kids.
Yeah.
But if we know that these specialist teachers are so important, are we making sure they actually get the right training, the right support to do their job well?
That's where the problem lies.
Okay.
The same study that showed that preference for specialist teachers also revealed a worrying statistic.
Okay.
Over 36% of principals reported that their HPE specialists actually lack specific qualifications in physical education.
Oh, hold on. So we're saying that we need these specialist teachers, but we're not giving them,
Yeah.
the specific skills and the knowledge to do the job well.
Yeah, it's a disconnect.
Yeah, that seems like a major disconnect.
It is. And it raises a crucial question.
Okay.
Who is teaching our children about physical activity?
Mm.
And are they prepared to inspire a lifelong love of movement?
It's not just ticking boxes on the curriculum, is it?
No.
It's about those positive experiences
Gary.
that shape how kids feel about being active. But if teacher training is one hurdle, what other challenges are we facing?
We'll think back to that Australian Senate inquiry we discussed earlier.
Okay.
One of the key factors that was contributing to the decline in physical education opportunities was a lack of resources.
Resources.
Schools were often faced with tough choices about where to put funding and time, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
PE often ended up on the chopping block.
That's so frustrating, especially when, right.
I know.
We know the long-term benefits of good QPE. It's like we're saving money now, but we're going to pay much more later.
Exactly. And it's not just about funding either. It's about having the right facilities,
Yeah.
the right equipment and time allocated for quality physical education. You can't expect teachers to deliver engaging and effective lessons if they're constantly struggling with overcrowded gyms or limited equipment or squeezed time slots.
It's a multifaceted problem then.
It is.
We need properly trained teachers, adequate resources, and, we need to actually start prioritizing physical education.
Yeah.
But are there any, bright spots? I mean, are there any examples of communities that are doing this well?
Absolutely. And this is where community partnerships come in.
Okay.
Imagine schools and universities sharing facilities and expertise, benefiting both institutions and the wider community as well.
Right.
That's the kind of collaborative approach that can really make a difference.
So everyone wins then. The students get access to better facilities, maybe some expert coaching. Institutions can share resources more efficiently.
Yeah.
And the whole community benefits from, people being more active and engaged. Are there any examples of this kind of partnership working in the real world?
There are some fantastic examples. One that stands out is the UK's School Sports Partnerships Initiative.
I think I've heard of that. It was quite successful, wasn't it?
It was incredibly successful.
Okay.
They provided training and resources to primary schools, linking them with specialist coaches and experts from the community.
Right.
The program led to a significant improvement in PE standards across the board.
Okay.
Kids were more active, they were more engaged, and they developed a wider range of skills.
So what happened? Why isn't it still running?
Unfortunately, government funding cuts led to its demise.
Oh, right.
It's a classic example of a successful program falling victim to short-sighted budget decisions.
It's a real shame because it highlights how even when we have a proven model, right,
Yeah.
keeping that going can be a real challenge. But, let's focus on the positive.
Yeah.
The fact that it existed at all, the School Sports Partnerships Initiative, and that it had such a positive impact,
Yeah.
that's encouraging in itself. It shows that with the right approach and the right support, things really can change.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that we can't rely solely on governments or institutions to solve this problem.
Right.
It requires a community-wide effort.
So true.
Think about the potential in your own community.
Yeah.
Are there untapped resources or partnerships that could support quality physical education?
That's a really good question for listeners to think about.
Yeah?
There might be local sports clubs, fitness centers, even retired athletes
Yeah.
who would be happy to get involved and share what they know. It's all about thinking outside the box, right?
Exactly. And that brings us back to a crucial point we touched on earlier, the need for a shift in mindset. We need to move away from seeing physical education as an optional extra or a luxury and recognize it as a fundamental pillar of health and well-being.
It's not an expense, it's an investment.
Absolutely.
And the return on that investment is immeasurable.
Yeah, it really is. And, we've talked about the global obesity crisis, the benefits of physical activity, and some of the challenges in making sure quality physical education happens.
Yeah.
It's clear that this is a really, complex issue and there's no easy answers. But what would you say is the most important thing for our listeners to take away from this? What should they remember?
I think the most important thing is that quality physical education is not a luxury. It's a necessity.
Yeah.
It's an essential ingredient for building a healthier society, starting with our kids.
I totally agree. And it's not something that we can just sit back and let, governments or schools figure out, right?
No?
We all have to do our part. Absolutely. We need to be advocates for quality physical education in our communities.
Yeah.
And that can be done in so many ways,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
could be volunteering at your kid's school, or it could be supporting local sports programs, or even just talking to your friends and family about how important physical activity is.
Thinking back to the UK's School Sports Partnerships Initiative, it's pretty inspiring to see how much of a difference community involvement can make. And even though the program was cut, the impact on those children is probably going to last a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just shows that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? We can just take things that work and adapt them for our own communities.
Precisely. And remember, even the small things can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
If you're a parent, encourage your child to try a bunch of different activities, find something they like, and make sure that moving is part of their everyday life.
It's about making sure that kids love moving, right?
Yeah.
Not just because it keeps them fit, but because it's actually fun. And those early positive experiences are going to shape how a child feels about physical activity for years and years to come.
Exactly. And if we can shift that mindset, right? So instead of thinking of physical education as just another thing to do, we start to understand just how important it is for overall well-being. We can really start to make a difference.
It's about investing in our children, right?
Yeah.
And it's investing in the future of our communities, too.
Absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final question. Given all we've learned about quality physical education and the challenges it faces, what can you do to make a difference? What actions can you take to make sure that our kids have a chance to develop those healthy habits that'll last a lifetime? Whether they're big actions or small actions, it all counts.
It really is something to think about because every effort counts towards creating a healthier, happier future.
Well, thank you for joining us today for this deep dive into the world of physical education. It's a topic that deserves our attention, our action, and our support.